Hi, welcome to Color Speak. It's Janet Huxley, JM Huxley, back here with Emily. And we are going to, I don't know, just kind of hang out together again today and see if we can come up with some things that might help you and encourage you in this time. And our focus is holistic living for sure, and how that relates to the Christian. So, welcome, Emily. It's good to have you back.
Hi.
We're both a little mellow as we drink our tea today.
Yeah.
So, and we were just talking about really, we label ourselves very crunchy around here, but I don't know that that's necessarily true. We're certainly not purists. We never have been, but we are very cognizant of the need to eat better and take better care of ourselves. So this is where Emily steps in because she is wholly devoted to that and is always a plethora of
Mhm.
information, a wealth of information. So, hey, Emily.
Hi. I would totally label myself crunchy.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah, I
I
would label you
mean, you
crunchy
may
too.
not. I would. I would label myself as like not crispy, but definitely crunchy.
Hmm.
There's some people that are
Well,
way more extreme, but then when I talk to people, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you are so extreme." But I don't feel like I'm in the extreme camp. But anyway,
well, that's because I'm closer to your camp than I would be others. So maybe people would think that I borderline, I don't
yeah.
know, I'm borderline crunchy. I don't know. All right. Well, I'm not highly caffeinated today, so I'm going to let you take the lead here. I
Oh
just want to
goodness.
say, uh, it might prove helpful to have a little background. So, Emily
Yeah.
is one of my 8 children. We raise the kids out here on the farm. Just to clarify, I'm from San Diego, California. I did my grad work back in Philly, but really, for the most part, I think I lived about 35 years in San Diego. That's where Emily was born. And then as a reporter, I was transferred to the Kansas City market, and we've been living here ever since. That was in 99 already. And
Mhm.
so we have been here for crying out loud like 25 years. Um, so at one point, I was a single mom and I got remarried. And his, mine, and ours, we raised these kids out here on the farm. We bought property south of Kansas City. And when you're moving kids who are used to being in a city, and particularly around the beach, it is not an easy task to move them out to the wilds of the country and expect that there wouldn't be a severe learning curve. And learning, I use the term very loosely because there was a lot
Yeah.
of grousing and complaining. And there were years where I questioned my own judgment because we seemed a little different. I mean, there were those we still attended church in town. We did all sorts of different methods of teaching. From one of our the oldest Taylor ended up only in private school. Several of the kids were both
Taylor was in
in
private school?
what?
Taylor
Taylor?
was in public school.
Yeah. Did I say private?
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
hard. I had a moment where I was like, really? Yeah, no, it was public. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're gonna have to lead me by the hand today. I am telling you.
Sorry. Man.
No, it's all good. So he just went to public school. We had a couple that went to public and private, several
Mhm.
that went to private from
I had all
homeschooling.
three. I
Yeah,
was,
that's right, you
um,
did. Hmm.
I was, yeah, I was all three.
Yeah. And then we had two that went from kindergarten all the way through. Technically homeschooled. I mean, they would not like to hear that because they were also taking courses at the local community college, and we were involved in a terrific school co-op, so they were able to take other classes. So yeah, so it doesn't look like, well, homeschooling never looks like everyone thinks it does. I mean, I would have loved
No.
if we were all sitting around a table drinking coffee and having scones in the morning, but there were always things we needed to do. We had chores, we had running around, we had things we had to
Yeah.
get to in the city, and there was never any downtime, especially with all of the activities. So there was a lot happening. But suffice it to say, on top of that, their dad decided that we were going to do a lot of work on the farm. We had 16 raised beds. We had there was always planting or cleaning or fencing or whatever to do. And then we had a barn built, and brought in goats, and we milked goats, and we drank raw milk for a while. So by the time that we would go into the city, is my point, and we had all of these city friends, we seemed
I
really
mean,
different.
everybody thought we were crazy.
Yeah, maybe.
I think people that I think now it's way more mainstream. I think tides have changed a lot, especially after COVID. So I think that now the idea, well, it's kind of a fad in a way, like having your own land and doing things. It's way more socially acceptable. Slash, people want to do that. But I
Hmm.
think back in the day, if you were in any type of real city setting, like that was very like weird to people, if that's the right verbiage. That was like a whoa. And I think just after the industrial revolution, everything, we just got so far away after all these years from, which is like a whole topic in itself, right? Like that, really since the 19, like after the First World War, like life has just changed drastically, and people just, I don't think, have a grasp on like where things come from, where their food comes from, how hard it is, how much work it is. And I think then when you kind of go back to that, at least 20 years ago, when you guys went back to that kind of like, it wasn't even fully, it was just half and half. There's people who literally, I mean, there's Amish people, right? Like there's people who literally will not do any of it. But when you kind of step back into that, it becomes really weird and almost like, or it was really weird. And it was kind of like, why would you do that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But now I think it's way more like culturally appropriate. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
well, and to be clear, it was a lot weirder to you than it was to Dad and I, because we had
Oh,
this
I'm not
vision
saying
of,
I
okay,
thought
well,
it was weird.
yeah,
I'm not saying I thought it was. I'm saying the
well,
people that probably thought we were weird, that like
right.
we knew in the city, because it was just, there was a way of life, and it was like, okay, great. You know what I mean? I don't know. Does that make sense? I
Yeah,
never.
well, no, of course. And then when we would drive into town, and so one of the first things that happened when I married Dad was I said to him, "Well, we have all these kids. We're gonna need a bigger
Like,
car." And he
we'll
bought
just let
that
them loose in the country.
ridiculous. Oh my gosh, it was a 15 passenger van, and
Yeah.
everyone was so embarrassed. And then picking people up from school, it was Tara and Haley would say, "Park down the streets. We don't want to be seen." And I mean, there was a lot happening. And then as we fast forward, I always thought, oh gosh, Kevin was, or Dad was saying one day, he says, "Isn't it great?" He says, "I bet we're the only ones in the church parking lots with chicken feed in the back of our truck." And he ended up getting a truck, and I thought, well, that's absolutely the case. And then I remember he was processing meat one day, and he
So
happened to
we,
throw a chunk intentionally on the hood of my car, laughing because he said, "I just can't wait for you to get a response when you pull into a lot where everyone." So we went to church in a county where people are very well off, and their cars were always very pristine and just washed, and we're 3 miles
it
off the
was
highway
like
on
super
gravel. We
getting
look like the
open.
Beverly Hillbillies. And
Yeah.
then we always had cracks in our windshield, and then we had this uh, piece of meat on the hood one day, and he was tickled over it. He just thought it was going to be a great conversation piece, and I thought, oh my gosh, I'm just going to die of mortification. But
Yeah.
it was such a learning experience for me, having come from a place where in San Diego I planted azaleas. I mean, I didn't I potted begonias. I didn't garden. I didn't ever can. So all of it was huge. And then we were grinding our own grain, and we had that grinder installed, remember, in the laundry room.
It's
The
still there.
kids. Yeah, it's still there. And the kids always had to grind. We had to take turns grinding by hand. And
That was freaking hard though. That was
yeah.
not fun. And you would tell me, "Oh, I need 12 cups." You know how long that would take?
Well, that's why but I
How long?
never asked you guys to do anything I wasn't willing to do myself. That's the thing. And so it was an interesting situation where I have all these kids grousing about why they can't go to the mall, why they can't see their friends, why are we so weird? Why do we have to milk goats? I'm so embarrassed. You're so awful because, X, Y, and Z. So it's really interesting to me to have come full circle on the farm where literally, we've talked about this before. We could have had our own show because it was wild with all of the things constantly happening. That's why I ended up writing about it, because it just felt like there was always something new to process, whether it was a rattlesnake or a cougar showing up, or the deaths of our animals due to overeating, for crying out loud, and all of the things. So it was, there was a lot happening. I felt like there was a lot of loss too on top of it, which compounded my frustration with you guys. But having come full circle, where when I would make goat's cheese, for example, nobody wanted it. Now it's what, some of you order.
True. I would totally eat the goat's cheese. That is so not true.
Okay. I don't remember
The
who was
other
eating
kids
what.
wouldn't. The other kids
There was a
wouldn't.
lot of protesting about what was
Yeah.
served here.
No,
And I remember one time we were
there
at
was.
church and I had taken a meal that was homemade mac and cheese, and the pastor said, "Well, that was great." And I think it was your brother, I think it was Connor, goes, "Oh my gosh, that was so gross." And he says, "You have a mom that makes homemade mac and cheese. What would you rather have?" "Well, we want Kraft out of a box." I thought, that's unthinkable. So anyway, we did it all.
Yeah, every kid was so
We
different.
and it was a lot. And so we drank raw milk and we were never sick. And yet I was always embarrassed to tell your pediatrician, my friend Lillian, that we were drinking milk that was unpasteurized. But anyway, we all lived through the process. In fact, we all lived to tell great stories about it. And here we are. My point is, come full circle. Now I'm hearing from everybody that they want to do this. They want to homestead. They want to have chickens, maybe a goat. They want to be out in the country, because I think that people have seen the benefits of it. And you're right. It's definitely
It's way
changed things.
more
COVID
popular.
changed everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was COVID's the big turning point for a lot of people. And I mean, it was 4 years ago, which
Yeah.
is wild. But yeah, I mean, I didn't protest that much. Some things I thought were weird, but
Like what?
well, like the first time, like, I mean, so we started drinking raw goat's milk, but it wasn't originally from us. It was from a different supplier.
Oh,
And
this is a
like,
good one.
to be fair, in
Yeah,
defense of those people who are anti raw milk, like if it's not done the right way, it's disgusting.
it
Like
is.
cow's milk or goat's milk. Like if it's not properly cared for, treated, even down to the diet of the animals, it's gross.
Yeah.
So if you have a bad luck with one and then you think that that's all, I understand that, but that's not accurate. So it's like that first time we had raw milk, that was so gross. And
Oh,
and
it was gross for
it
me.
was
It was horrendous.
so
Okay.
so disgusting.
Yeah. Right. 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 Right.
However, like
Yeah.
I think it's just way more common. Like there's literally here in Dallas, like I on my way home, there's a raw milk stand and it's like part of a farm and it's like smack dab DFW suburbs and um it's like you know how like you drive and there's like suburbs everywhere and then there's like a little plot of like land randomly. It's like one of those places. And I drink raw milk, not all the time, but I try to do it. Like I'll go get a gallon like maybe once a month or something, just because it
Mhm.
is so good for you. And even like people are saying like you should drink raw milk when you're pregnant, which is like very like when people hear people say that they're like you might as well like poison yourself or something, which is just
Right.
so crazy. I'm like what do
Yeah.
you think people did like in the 1800s and when they were pregnant? Like do you think they just didn't drink raw milk for 9 months? Like no. Like the if you look at history, it's really only been in the last less than 100 years that you've had all of this change in your food and your diet, and then you think that that's normal and that the way people are doing it naturally is like the weird thing. It's just
Yeah.
that's
Well,
that
and
to
that's
me
what I
is where
said
my mind is like, what?
yeah, and that's what I said when Dad decided we were going to process goats, and he was doing it, and most of the world eats goat meat. It's
Yeah,
only here that we don't. And so when he converted that into jerky and we had the, drying process, that was actually really good.
I actually don't even
I'm not a
remember.
big fan anyway, but the milk definitely, that I definitely got on board with. And I want to get back to that story because that's actually kind of a funny story. So here's me. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what I was thinking starting out as a homesteader. I think it was so novel. We had we had 40 acres. We have 40 acres and we're south of town. And I'm thinking, well, what can I do? I feel like such a responsibility to this land because when I first married Dad, he wanted to do something for kids with special needs and have horses. And so I had this idea coming into the property it was a gift from the Lord that had to be utilized properly. Then come to find out we're both severely allergic to horses, which that was a God thing because I had ridden when I was a kid and I had had horseback riding lessons. I had gotten them for you, but it wasn't until we were out here that we found out that that was not going to happen. It
Mhm.
was wild. So I'm just standing in the kitchen one day. I think we had already been grinding grain and doing some planting. And I said, I want to get a milk cow. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to be
Yeah.
all in, go big or go home. And so he sat there quietly reading his paper. And then he comes back to me later and he says, I think he got online and he started doing some research and he
Yeah.
said, I think we need to do goats. And I thought,
Mhm.
that's a wild idea. That is a wild idea. You're talking, okay, I'm a Southern California city girl. You're talking about getting goats to milk. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard of. It was equally as crazy as homeschooling, which, by the way, was his idea too. And I thought, well, that's nuts. Anyway, that proved to be a great thing. But what did I know? I've learned not to have an opinion before I work through my ignorance. So we bring these goats in, and like Emily, well, no. The first thing we did was to make sure that we knew what we were going to do while the barn was being built and the fencing
Yeah.
was being put up. We found a place and we went over to buy the goat's milk and brought it home. And it was like, it tasted like it had been
Disgusting.
filtered through a hoof. I mean,
It was,
literally, it was so
it
bad.
was
It was like, well, and I knew getting there because the side door to the van opened and we all spilled out and we stepped into literally slog of goat. That goat farm smelled like goat. Everything about it was this disgusting goat smell. And I had my reservations then, and Dad was telling me, shh, be quiet. You have to be a cheerleader. If you don't have any problem with it, the kids won't have any problem with it. And I'm thinking, I have a problem with it already. I don't know how I'm going to do this. So we all traipse home. I don't know if you remember, but Nana Jane was with us. And she's watching us all take part in this like milk pouring ceremony that Dad gathered us around the island.
and
And
Nana Jane is like Nana Jane's to a T, like very old school, and is like, "What the heck are you doing? You guys are
well,
crazy."
old school refined is what you mean. Because listen, the woman, you
Meaning,
can
like,
walk
love
in
her.
the garage
I
door,
mean,
it's so clean.
love her if she listens to this. She very heavily relies on medical information and is very
Yes.
opposite, I think, of me in an entirety. So I think that's more what I mean. She just is very old school in that regard. Anyway, all that to say, yeah, Ghost Milk, that was not a good moment, but we probably
Oh,
should get
wait,
into
let me tell you how it tasted for those of you who are listening this far.
I don't
So
think
it
I
tasted,
don't think they want to know.
it was so bad.
They
Okay,
want
so,
to
okay.
it.
Yeah. And so Kevin's standing there, Dad's standing there
Trying
going,
to
shh,
encourage people to want to do it.
I
But
didn't. Well, here's my point. I didn't want to do it. I was just trying to be the good wife and the good mother, but I knew that I had to be the wife that said, okay, yeah, isn't this great? And I'm turning around thinking, I'm going to throw up and nobody wants to do it. Well, the next thing you know, we're buying goats. And we didn't understand. Okay, let me tell you about that farm. That farm did not respect the milk. That farm did not treat the milk well. It was a good thing we did not all get sick from that because come to find out, the reason it smelled the way it did was it just wasn't a clean farm. And not only that, they probably kept their bucks close
anyway,
to
yeah,
the
it's okay.
goats
Yeah,
and
we
it
don't need
polluted
to
the
go
milk.
into it. I don't think people need to know all the details. I
Well,
think
they
yeah.
might. I mean, I used to say it's not fascinating at all, and people say, oh, no, I want to hear all about it. Okay, so at any rate, we ended up with goats of our own. Getting goats of our own was the first step in changing all of that because of the way that we handled it. But it
Yeah.
wasn't until we went from the higher producers, which there's a type of goat that produces more, but the milk is more like skim milk. And there's a goat that produces probably not so much, but still a lot, still enough, a Nubian. And we went with the Nubians and they have a higher butterfat content. So when we would milk, honestly, it was the best stuff. It was so good. You couldn't taste any goat residue. You wouldn't even know. We had kids come over and they drank it and they didn't even know, teenagers that got into the milk and they didn't even know that it
Yeah.
was goat's milk.
Anyway,
So that was great. So um, we've had a
enough
lot
about
of
me.
fun with goats. Mhm.
I
We
still
and
am
our
not
I
thrilled.
will I'll say just to put things into perspective because people ask me all of the time, would you ever milk a goat again? Well, here's why I wouldn't. to say nothing for just sterilizing the equipment and doing all of the things. It was actually, I did both. I had a machine eventually, but milking by hand was actually just as easy for cleanup than doing the machine. Um, but it's just, you have to freshen them every year. So you have all of these babies, and your kids fall in love with the babies, and you don't want to let the babies go. Before you know we had 80 goats. We had 80 goats. And so it really trimmed the property down nicely, but it was a lot of work. And so I don't miss that. And I do respect people who are willing to do it and to sell it. And I hope that we
Yeah.
have a neighbor, Shonda, that's about ready to have babies, and it'll be her first foray into this. And I've already told her I'd love to buy some if she has enough to sell. So anyway, that's our story.
It's 20 minutes
Yeah,
now.
yeah. So now that we're
Yeah, we've established the boat
we're
thing.
a little, like a little hippie here.
I don't think people want to. Yeah, I don't want to do
I
goats.
Yeah, I'm tired just thinking about it. Yeah.
So, but
So
everything else,
chickens are good though.
chickens
Yeah,
are great.
yeah,
Chickens
they
are
eat
good.
all the bugs. I can lay out on my porch and I don't worry about ticks or
Yeah.
spiders. It's great. Yeah. So so Emily, tell me, if you were to choose one thing that you would really want to encourage people to do, just to maintain, or to not even maintain, maybe just create a healthy lifestyle. Because the goal here is, there's a lot changing in the world. Again, I'm going to preface this for those who haven't listened into the cast before, but we're obviously, most everybody knows, unless you've been living in a cave over the past few years, that we have been hoodwinked, we have been deceived, we have been led to believe that things look a certain way. In reality, our government isn't for us. The FDA isn't for us. Drug companies aren't for us. Um, Everything that we've known and experienced that we thought was maybe either beneficial or even just okay for us has turned out to be potentially harmful. So,
Yeah.
in this moment in time, how do we live a life and do so that efficiently? And I say efficiently in terms of just financially. How do we connect with nature again and start looking at what we're putting into our bodies? How do we live a holistic life, Emily?
It's a loaded question. I think
Yeah.
some yeah, I mean you can't do it all overnight. It's really hard. I think it's baby steps. I think you just start with the mindset of like you have to want the change. You have to be aware of and I think the first step is like being aware of yeah, all the junk and everything and just the toxins that your body is surrounded by every day throughout everything, and you're constantly bombarded with them. I think now it's, what is it, like the average human baby is born with over like 700 different toxins in their body just based off of what they're consuming from their mom, because you're just bombarded with it. You're bombarded with them from your beauty products to your food to your cooking stuff to your the air outside, that's sprayed, and like all these different things, all the pesticides, all the stuff on food. So you're kind of in like toxic overload to begin with, and I think most people are not aware of it, and that's why we have so many people who are so sick, especially in the United States. Like if you just ask people, are just, they're sick, they're fatigued, they don't have energy. Half the population's infertile, men included. You have just all of these problems per se, and it's not, to preface, I'm not anti modern medicine. I am pro modern medicine only when the house is on fire and you need a fire hydrant to put it out. Like you need a hose to put it out.
Hmm.
But I'm not pro modern medicine when restoration needs to happen and some fixing needs to be done, right? It's like, I think that there's a lot of other really great beneficial things you can do that the Lord's given us for those things, rather than automatically just jumping into, well, I'm just going to take a pill for that. I'm just going to, be on medication for the next 20 years of my life because of X symptom. So, but I am very, go to the hospital when you need to go to the hospital, you know? Um, but people often ask me, they're like, well, like, why do you care so much about toxins? Like what difference is it going to make? But really, when you look at the big picture, there's so much everywhere. So cutting back at least 80% in your life can really make a difference and really be helpful because you have it bombarding you on every spectrum of your life. Um, and so there's things you can do where it's not a crazy budget. You don't have to go crazy. I'm very much on a budget, and I don't go super crazy wild when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's just little things here and there you can do that really can make a difference in your lifestyle. And it's just honestly intentional choices.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I'm thinking when we're talking about toxicity levels, and we've talked to, we do have a chiropractor in Kansas City that's crunchy. And so most of the family sees him. And he's talked about this as well. Like, there's some things he will even concede. Okay, so I know you're going to do some toxins, like makeup, for example,
well, there's
or
makeup that you can get that's non-toxic,
cleaning.
but yeah.
That's what I'm going to say. Yeah. So you can start looking at products, just making those little changes, like looking for foundation that's clean, looking for shampoo and conditioner that's clean, being aware of what you put in your
Yeah.
coffee, the things that you buy at the store, reading the labels. I mean, it takes some time, even in a health food store here. And I won't mention it, but they always have these prepackaged meals kind of in the front of the store. And I
And
think,
it's
oh, that would
filled
be
with seed
great.
oils,
It's filled with seed oils,
filled with junk.
um,
Yeah.
canola oil. I mean, be
Yeah.
suspect unless it, or even just some of those things that say made with olive oil. Turn around, turn the label over, and you will see
And
9 out
make
of 10
sure it
times.
actually is made with olive oil. Yeah.
Well, but sometimes it's made with canola oil first, and
Well,
then
that's what I mean. Yeah.
olive oil is added at the bottom.
Say,
Right,
they'll
right,
say, oh, it's made with olive oil, and it is, but it's mostly made with canola and like 20% olive oil. So they can
right.
put on the label it's made with olive oil, but it's actually not super healthy. Yeah, you should just avoid seed oils in its entirety. Seed oils are so bad for you.
Okay, so what do you know about seed oils, Emily? Because I know we're a little bit all over the place, and people
Yeah.
may be thinking, okay, so I don't understand. You're talking about seed oils, but you're talking about, okay, so how does that relate
Yeah.
to toxicity levels?
So I think, well, for one, diet is a huge thing. I think if you can change your diet 90%, then you're already going to be in a really good place. For me personally, like I know I probably seem extreme to some, but the less ingredients the better. So when I'm shopping, like I want to see as little as possible on the ingredient list because that means it's going to have less junk in it, less dyes, all that stuff. I try to eat just like really simple, like almost like ancestral, like go back in the day, what did your grandma, well, not Nana, but by then they were eating spam. But a couple generations back, like what was their
I
diet?
can't
It
believe it's
was,
not butter.
oh my gosh. So you want to go through and go, okay, like, so a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit. And look, I understand in this economy, it's really hard. So for me, I try to maximize on like, if I buy sweet potatoes, I'm going to see how I can make that work in 3 different types of meals throughout the week. So when I shop, I try to be really intentional on buying ingredients that I can double up on and use in different meals. So like maybe soup one time, you can make a pasta another time, like just different things that really help with budgeting in this current state we're in within buying groceries because it's crazy expensive. And so that's one thing I like to do. And then just eat, yeah, like as simple as possible. And then make sure I'm adding in lots of vegetables, lots of protein. I will buy like grass fed beef because the rest of it, like, and even then, if I had more of a disposable income, I would probably be buying like even higher quality meat from a local farm or something. But that can just be pretty pricey. So I would think you can go to Costco and you can find grass fed, meat. You can even go to Aldi and find it, Sprouts. There's a lot of ways you can, like, it's possible. Like, as someone who's on a budget, it is possible to eat healthy in this economy. It's just about being intentional. So seed oils is one thing that and it's 80/20. So like I bought Girl Scout cookies a few weeks ago. Like I'm not like that, so crazy to the point where I don't enjoy my life. Like I'll have Chick-fil-A every now and then. But
And I like
90% of the time,
chocolate.
huh?
And I have
Hershey's.
to have Reese's chocolate every once in a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's really just about like it's 80/20, which Kelsey, my sister, would say I'm not 80/20. She thinks I'm so extreme, but I totally disagree with her. I'm like, Kelsey, I have Chick-fil-A. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I will eat things that are not healthy for me. Um,
Well, you
but
can eat Chick-fil-A nuggets that are fried in peanut oil. Those are going to be a better
yeah, it's the
choice
fries that
than
are
the
in
fries. Yeah. Than the
yeah.
fries that are not. Okay.
Well, the funny thing too, so okay, seed oils, it's anything that like grapeseed oil, canola oil, vegetable oil, like anything that is not coconut, avocado, and olive oil. Like those three oils are usually what I want to see on a label. So if it has anything else in it, I don't buy it. And
Why
I'm just,
is that, Emily? For those that
well,
don't know, I mean, they would think, well, isn't vegetable oil, I mean, they're vegetables. What's the issue there?
it's so bad for you. Canola oil was actually made as a lubricant for machinery in the
Let's say
Industrial
that.
Revolution, and we
Yeah.
ingest it. What seed oils do, any type of, yeah, grapeseed, canola, vegetable, they're not heart healthy for you. That's BS. That's one way I believe our like modern medicine society has lied to us. It's not healthy. They want to make you sick. Just gonna like full on conspiracy theory out there. Like the FDA does not want you to be healthy,
Right.
because you look at other countries' food standards and they are radically different than ours. And there's things that are not allowed in other countries that we allow. And I think at the end of the day, they don't want you healthy and they want you on all the medications you can be on to help them keep making money. But that's a side conversation. So,
Well, let me just interject right there, and then I don't want to interrupt your flow, but
yeah,
I wrote notes because I wanted to get back to this because most people, I think most people understand that the pharmaceutical companies are in league with the FDA,
yeah,
and that
yeah,
the people that serve on the FDA own stock in the pharmaceutical companies.
yeah.
So of course they're going to make sure that
I mean,
we're
if
as
you
sick as
look at
possible and dependent
profits,
on.
yeah,
It's
profits, it's all
ridiculous,
just, it flows,
right?
and they make so much money off of you being ill. And rather, that's why it's so radical when you, which I don't need to go down. That's a different topic. But like when you go to get tested for things and whatnot, they don't want to get to the root cause. Like that's why so many doctors and we love doctors. We appreciate doctors. There's some really great doctors out there. Um, but most mainstream are not going to want to help address the root issue. They're going to want to slap a pharmaceutical on it and call it a day. But
Well, and let
anyway,
me also interject. Just I'm thinking of actually three doctors I know myself right now that I consider friends, and I would think that, and I'm not. We're not speaking about. We're speaking about the majority. We're not speaking
yeah,
about those that are
I think
interested
the
in true health.
corrupt,
But I
the
think
corrupt
it's more.
ones,
I think
yeah,
it's more that you get so busy. We're all guilty of this. We get so busy doing our thing in whatever job we're doing that we forget to look outside of the box and question. And I
yeah,
think that's really where doctors have fallen in. There's been so much evidence that has been promulgated by the deep state. And I'm just going to say that, or those powers that be that really truly don't have our best interests in mind, that they are really relying on that body of evidence. And it's just false evidence that they're relying on. So it
yeah,
may not necessarily be that they're just too busy to care. I think they truly believe they want to help and they want to heal. But unfortunately, they've been blinded just as much as the rest of us. And they're operating on old protocol.
yeah. And
And then,
yeah,
of course, we have those that spoke out during COVID, right? That are now, they suffered the consequences for that, for challenging the status quo. That's a whole different topic.
well, for sure.
But yeah.
And I
Mhm.
think that yeah, there's a lot of really incredible doctors out there, a lot of really incredible nurses. It's not so much the blanket statement as no one wants you to be healthy. I think it's the overarching umbrella of the backbone of the whole industry is it's not to actually cure you, it's to treat a symptom, and it's to keep you sick, whether people want to recognize that or not. It's in the statistics and it's in the studies. And but there's great doctors out there literally being so incredibly brilliant when it comes to inventing things that are saving people's lives. And that's a totally different category. Those innovations and those people who are doing really incredible science that are actually helping save people. It's the day-to-day system that
Right. Well, and I just want to give a case in point too, and this was my example, is in 2014, I suffered all sorts of symptoms where I felt like I was literally suffocating in my own body, and I felt claustrophobic and shaky, and I couldn't sleep, and I was absolutely miserable. And we went through that whole process, and you were with me because you went with me, and the doctor said, "Oh, well, you just suffered a traumatic event, and
Just
you
it'll
need to
even
be in
out or
better shape."
something is what he said,
Right.
right?
And come to
Yeah.
find out, well, and I started down that path because I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening to me? Turns out I was severely vitamin D deficient. Like on a scale of 1 to 100, I don't remember. I was probably a 4. I don't remember. But I was severely vitamin D
No,
deficient. Now, I
yeah,
wish that we could get to a point where doctors could marry an understanding of vitamins and
but they
holistic
can't though. Like
living.
that's the
That's
thing
the
though,
problem.
is the
Right.
main
Right.
even if a doctor like there's so many doctors I have listened to on podcast interviews who are very, very knowledgeable, know what they're talking about, have degrees, and they lean very holistic, but they have a very traditional medicine background because they are like, I want to heal people, I want to get to the root cause of things, but in the mainstream overarching, industry, I'm not allowed to. It's
Mhm.
very frowned upon. And so it's sad because there's so many doctors that just really want to help people, and then they end up having to go off and do their own thing and entirely in order to really help people, because you like, I tell people all the time, I'm like, oh, what I would love to see what your minerals are at, like what your levels are at and where you're at, because it tells so much about a person. When people are like, oh, I'm constantly fatigued, I have no energy, like they like just list off all these symptoms, and I'm like, okay, like rather than taking ibuprofen to numb the X, Y, and Z every day, like what is your body at? What's your diet? Are you getting enough sun? Are you outside? Are you exercising? Like and it's just normal, simple things. Like it's not even anything that's like revolutionary. It's just like normal, basic, back to the principles. Like, what's your day-to-day life? How are you living? How are you treating your body? How are you taking care of yourself? And yeah, your mineral levels and your vitamin levels can tell so much about a person. Um,
And
and it
I'm glad you brought the minerals up because the minerals are so important, especially if you're drinking filtered water. You could be filtering out minerals. So it's important
oh
that you
yeah, you
consider.
you don't you
Yeah.
yeah, filtered water is great because you don't want to drink tap water because it's filled with
Right.
fluoride and junk
Mhm.
and even birth control. But
Yeah.
you when you drink filtered water, you want to be making sure you're putting minerals back in the water, and you can find minerals at like Whole Foods, Sprouts, Amazon. You just want to get like some sort of trace mineral supplement, and it's liquefied, and just put a couple drops in there every time I fill up my Stanley, I just will put minerals in it, because if you are drinking water without minerals, you're not hydrating yourself. The minerals are actually what helps your body absorb the hydration and be hydrated. Otherwise, like, you could drink 10 bottles of water and it's not going to do anything for your hydration levels. Um,
And I noticed that too. I mean, because you got me on minerals, I kept filling up mine and drinking water like crazy and wondering why am I always so thirsty? And
yeah,
then I guess about a year or two ago, I got on the mineral kick. Well, I think for a while here on the farm, we had this mindset. I think your dad did where, well, if you're eating all of this and you're eating well, then you don't
which is
need
true,
vitamins and minerals.
100%.
However, we do need to
Our
supplement. Yeah.
And this is true, but our soil levels from over farming are so depleted that
Hmm.
that carrot doesn't have the same mineral levels and the same vitamins and nutrients it had back 100 years ago, 200 years ago. So in a perfect world, every doctor says, I don't want anyone to have supplements. I don't want anyone to feel the need they have to have supplements, because if our nutrition is really, really high quality and good and thriving, you don't need supplements. It's all right there. The issue is when, you know you you have soil that's depleted and you have things that are just not as nutrient dense as they used to be. um and two, our water, is so filtered and processed. If you have clean, most of the time, good clean drinking water, from a natural spring or something, it's going to have natural minerals in it, it's going to have stuff in it. But that's just not readily available to every person, especially if you're living in, a city or a suburb. Like, that's just not, you're going to have other ways to supplement, which isn't wrong or bad. it's just something you should do.
Mm-hmm.
But
So, so I want to get to, there's so many things, from eating to making sure you're getting sunshine and not listening to all of the people who tell you you should slather chemicals all over your body and stay out of the sun. Isn't that
yeah.
interesting? Don't even get me started on that. Um, that's the research I started 10 years ago. And then, the eating, the sunshine, the exercise. We've talked about healing frequencies. What we listen to is so important. We've talked about, what am I missing? I also was thinking, because I want to do
Wait,
the
we talked
rundown
about
for
that
people.
today.
No, you and I have talked
Oh,
about that before.
okay. I
And
thought
Missy's been
we
on
didn't.
talking about frequencies.
Yeah.
And then I had Margaret Wasick. I said that wrong the first time, who is a concert pianist who studied who opened at Carnegie Hall and studied at Juilliard. She was on recently as well and talked about just the benefits of classical music and getting back to what the ancients listened to and
Mhm.
the frequencies that were prevalent even in David's temple and in the tabernacle, which again is so, so important. What we haven't talked about is like red lights, the lymphatic plate, and we haven't talked about grounding. So I wanted to talk a little bit about grounding because I want, for those people that might be feeling overwhelmed, like where do I start? Here's where you start. Um, you start by just being cognizant that there are all of these options, and then you can start making small lifestyle changes. And before you know it, you've changed a lot, and it's made impact.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I think well, the first start is just acknowledging that there's an issue.
Mhm.
That's the first start. I think in really anything is when you go to change something or do something different. The first step is acknowledging the problem, right, and
Mhm.
then moving forward from there. So I would say, yeah, the first step is just going, okay, like there's stuff that needs to change. There's all of this stuff which I mentioned before, um,
But you're right,
and
noticing
then
because we've known people in our own lives who have said, "Well, I don't have an issue with that. It's worked for me all of these years." And I would say, I
well,
would argue,
yeah,
especially with the older people in our lives, it worked all of these years for you because you had good, clean living, for decades before a lot of
yeah.
a lot of these products hit the market. Whereas for me, for somebody my age, I feel like it's more problematic because I sort of was raised on that. Oh, margarine's better for you. Oh, you should use, I can't believe it's not better. Oh, you should do, all of these little things. We've talked about the fact that even my mother in law was told she shouldn't breastfeed her children. So she didn't, because back in the day, there was that belief
Yeah,
circulating, or
yeah,
all the things that we've seen over time. So now just understanding, I think for me the first thing, and I guess I'm putting the cart before the horse, because at the end I wanted to just say, okay, here's all the information, there are all these options, what can you do to make a difference? For me, it's just, I get off of work and I'm exhausted, and maybe dad's traveling and I'm alone, and I think I don't want to go home and cook. I just want to pick something up that's easy. So I go across the way and there's a place that is has rice bowls, and you can do like potato noodles, and everything is supposed to be so healthy, and there's lots of vegetables and kimchi and all of that. Well, I just found out recently all of their
yeah.
stuff is seed oil, and they cook
No,
in seed oil. So
so yeah,
I mean,
no, I
all of
mean,
these places that,
yeah,
yeah, market themselves as being healthy. Listen, there's no healthy option for you out there. As long as
even
you can
even
wrap your
Whole
mind around it.
Foods, even Whole
Right,
Foods has seed oils, and to go
right.
back on that, seed oils, what they do is they cause like um oxidate. They they create free radicals within your body, and they cause cellular damage. So when people are like, "Oh, it's just seed oils," I'm like, "Yeah, but like it actually." It's inflammatory, and I can't even tell you. So, like, what is it? Last week was Valentine's Day, and it was just like crazy being a florist. And luckily, the company I work for is really great, and they were very, very kind and generous, and they brought lunch and breakfast in every day for us, because it was just like this, like, go go go, like, so I mean, we prepped over, I think there was like over like 1,200 arrangements or something, and it was madness. And so that whole week I honestly like didn't really pay attention to my eating. um Here and there, because I would have lunch that was provided, which I was so grateful for and thankful for. But the week after, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so inflamed. Like my whole body, I was just like, my body, since I like have really cleansed myself from it, is now like, if I have just the slightest amount of like seed oils or just crazy processed things, like it just does not like any of it. And then I have to like take a whole week to like reset and like get myself back on track. But I would say to combat, if you're going to eat seed oils, take some vitamin E, because vitamin E is going to be really good at helping combat that. It's not going to, cancel it out per se, but like if you are like wanting Chick-fil-A every now and then, vitamin E is really good. But yeah, that in your diet is just not long term going to serve you. And I know, yeah, people make comments of, well, it's been fine after all these years. I'm like, yeah, but you don't see disease overnight. Disease
Build
or
up.
anything that's wrong with your body is going to show up in 40, 50 years. So I think it'll be interesting to see like where my generation will be at in their 50s and 60s and how healthy it'll be, because we'll have then spent, that'll be the generation that'll have spent their entire lives on this over processed junk that it's going to catch up. Like there's only so much your human body can take mixed in with all the other junk and the toxins and the things. I mean, we're already seeing it in my generation. My generation is like, there's studies done where like men are showing up super infertile, women are infertile. Like it's already wreaking havoc. And that's not just because of seed oils. I just mean in general, there's so much junk that it's causing all these issues. I'm jumping around a lot, but I would say start with like the basics. Just like cut the junk out of your diet, try to eat as clean as possible within a budget, and just like be outside, get some sun and exercise. Like, and then after that, you can implement clean makeup, clean hair care, clean, like just all that kind of stuff. Change out your laundry detergent to something clean that's not filled with all the chemicals. Switch to cast irons. You don't have to go out and buy like super, super crazy expensive.
Yeah, we've done that. Yeah.
Microwave everything in glass. Don't ever microwave anything in plastic. Plastic is going to leach BPA into your food, and then you're going to be ingesting microplastics. And studies show that a normal human consumes about a credit card a month worth of microplastic in their system, which is.
And so we wonder why we have headaches. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And, I just think I grew up never having a headache. I did not have headaches through my younger years, through childbearing, all of that. It was never an issue. And all of a sudden, it's so interesting because about the year 2019, 2020, I started having headaches all of the time. And they were excruciating, and they were like life changing. Like it was hard to move beyond them. And then I start talking to people. Well, people that I walk with in the lake, who are maybe 10 years younger than me. Well, I've been having headaches too, they say. And somebody I work with who's in her 30s, headaches all the time. Somebody else who is in her 50s, headaches all of the time. And I'm thinking, all of us are feeling different, and we're feeling pressure, and we have headaches. And I think there are probably a number of reasons for that. And some of them are not in our control, but some of them are. I think just by being aware and making that choice. So what I was getting to before is, even though it's terrible to hear, it really is going to be so much better for you to get home and to prepare your meals at home rather than looking for that quick fix or instant gratification. And let me tell you, it's hard for me because I have a long ride home to this. I mean, I'm in the car 40 minutes one direction.
Well, I am too.
And I want to eat, I don't want to wait. But it's just so much better. Like you gave me, when I was down in Dallas, Emily, you prepared a meal for me, which was fantastic. And I loved it. It was just jasmine rice, and you had a meat crumble on top and all kinds of vegetables and tomato and some cheese. And it was, and you had some of those tortilla chips that don't have seed oils that you.
Yeah, Costco even like this, the Siete brand is really good. They have all their stuff in avocado oil. And they sell them at Costco. You can get a bag of chips there.
And watch the salad dressings. That's the other thing. It's like, I don't even want to order a salad out anymore because the dressings are, might as well just order like a whole mountain of fries, because you're probably going to get less seed oil that way.
And most of the time, salads aren't going to be healthy because it's all iceberg lettuce. Like it's not going to have any like nutrient properties in it. People always say you want to just have like a colorful diet. like try to like eat as
Mhm.
like, so like you just think of all the like things that just have color in them, like not artificial color, just normal, like
Obviously,
healthy,
yes.
natural things.
Yeah.
Um, and then I would say, I mean, I would recommend like go somewhere and get your mineral levels tested to see what supplements you need to take, which
Where
probably
would you
feels
go for that? I
a
mean, I
little
know where you go for that,
overwhelming.
but what do you suggest?
Um,
I know where you go in Dallas.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different places. I would say just Google it, honestly, or
Mhm.
find some sort of functional medicine doctor in the city you live in. I mean, it's popular now. Like it's readily available. Um, your gynecologist or your normal doctor isn't gonna test your mineral levels or even your hormones, most likely. Um, and I would say, like, as a woman, pay attention to your thyroid. Make sure you're taking things that are going to be helpful for that. There's some really good like thyroid supplements out there that you can just find. I probably should send you some links. I don't know if you can link stuff on your
Yeah,
on your
I can.
page, because
I
I can
can.
provide
With
some
putting it on multiple platforms, I'm not always
more.
good about getting it
Like,
all on there.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I would say it probably feels really overwhelming. But when I started with just, I think I switched out my hair stuff first, I want to say.
I think you did.
But that's because, well, I mean, like I think back and I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I doing? Remember when I went on birth control when I was like 18? Do you remember
Mhm.
that? And I was
Well, that
having,
was because your dermatologist told you
well, and
that's
I
what
was
you
having some hormonal issues, and they
Mhm.
just were like, okay, birth control. And looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, why did you do that? But I wasn't, even though we were raised really healthy, like I hadn't really been
Mhm.
made aware yet of all of the ins and outs of just all the stuff, all the junk that's in everything, and how terrible birth control is for a woman. Um, and so I just went on birth control. And then when I went off of it, it's like all of a sudden my body freaked out and I had like all of these health issues and all of these things going on, and I was like, oh my gosh, my hormones are probably so out of whack. And I think that's where I started. I was just like, okay, my hormones need to be balanced. What do I need to do to balance my hormones? Well, as a woman, a lot of your beauty products, makeup products, all of those things, they're going to have massive hormone endocrine disruptors in them. So like, simplify, like, which will actually really help your budget, because a lot of people go, well, I can't afford that. And I go, actually, you can. It's just you don't go to Target and buy your stuff. Like, I don't buy anything from Target anymore that you can grab off the shelf. Like, I don't shop in the beauty department there. I don't buy anything there. I'm really intentional when I spend my money on things. So like, my makeup bag has simplified. You don't need all this stuff, which is kind of just a whole other topic of like
Mhm.
consumerism, of just consuming. You don't need all of it. Um, just simplify and just get rid, as a woman, of all of the toxins. You can even get stuff off of Amazon. I think it's called Olivia. That's a really good brand. They have like clean body wash, clean face wash. Um, this stuff is like readily available now. It's not that you have to go out and spend so much money and find it. You can find really, really good stuff at a decent cost. But for me, I started with that, and I noticed my hormones drastically improved. I cut out candles in my life, and I don't like candles anymore in my home now. If there's actually a candle lit, I will start to have a headache in like 10 minutes. Um,
Yeah, we got rid of all those plugins, those
mhm.
wallflowers
Bath
that
and
we
Body
had.
Works, you should just never step in again. I know I probably sounds so extreme to some people, but honestly, like, I feel overall really healthy. I rarely get sick. Like, I'm
Mhm.
not in fatigue. I will work long days and like I'll be tired at the end, but I'm not tired in the way of like, oh my gosh, like I can't stand up. I'm so exhausted. Like, I'll go to Pilates at 6 o'clock in the morning, go work an 8 hour day, drive home, and I'll still have energy. It's amazing how much you can actually get done when you treat your body well, and how much you just take care of yourself. And so when you're balanced out and you're eating the right things and taking your supplements and doing things to take care of yourself, like your body rewards you. Um,
So I want to, and I'm sorry to interject now, but there were a couple of subjects that I wanted to talk about, both grounding or earthing and the
yeah.
vibration plate, and then all of this I want to, really at least touch on what does the Christian community think about this, because I think this is so huge. First of all, we tell this the shorter subject's going to be the vibration plate before we get to earthing.
Mhm.
So tell me about that, because you have one of those. Oh, and you have a red light too, which I'm so jealous about.
So I
Tell
have a
us
red
about this.
light. It was literally $40 on Amazon. I found it through this woman who lives in Hawaii, which honestly, like her life, I'm like, oh my gosh, it seems like a dream because she just lives so healthy and she's just like out in nature and like she gives birth to her babies outside in like a tub and it just is like it's so fun. I love it. I know your face. My coworkers, when I talk to them, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're crazy." But honestly, I'm like, "No, that's the life." Um, I found her page. She has a lot of really good, like, she's a whole Amazon storefront of healthy things, high quality
Okay,
things.
so
And
what is she? I'll write it down. Who is
her
she?
name is, her name, let me see. Her name is Corey. Oh gosh. I think it's like, I know it's like Kori.
Okay.
She actually has, yeah, Corey Malloy, Meloy. She has a lot of really good information on her Instagram of just like holistic living, back to the basics, all of that kind of stuff. She has almost 150,000 followers, so she's really knowledgeable. And she had the red light that I got off of Amazon. It was like $40. Some red lights are hundreds of dollars. You don't have to have one of those in order to like those are great. They're super high quality,
What are they
100%
for? What are they for?
right.
Why would somebody need a red light or want one?
So red light is actually they use it on a lot of cancer patients to help with hair growth. It penetrates a deeper so like most light when it hits your skin, it only gets to certain layers of your skin, but the red light and the wavelengths of it and the frequency of it, they can penetrate into deeper layers of your skin and they can actually cause like cell rejuvenation and your cells to turn like it's just really really healthy for you. I do it every night before bed because it increases natural like melatonin in your body if you sit in the red light for a little bit. And it's just
How long
overall
do
like
you sit?
good. Huh?
How long? How long do you sit?
Maybe 30 minutes. Um, a lot of people say you need to work your way up to it and not go like crazy all at once. Um, but I mean, 30 minutes is
What have
really all
you
I do.
have you felt a difference? So somebody might be saying, "Well, wait a minute. We're told stay out of the light, put all the sunscreen on. Okay, now we understand that maybe being out in the sun isn't such a bad idea as I look out the window. This is what I'm doing. Sorry." Um, but why red light? And why should we be concerned that maybe this is just the latest fad and there really isn't anything to it or
No,
could eventually even be harmful?
no. I mean, they use it in hospitals for chemo patients. So I think if it was a concern, not that we, I'm not saying like let's trust all the things, but I mean, there's kind of proof in that right there. If they're going to put it in a hospital, then that shows something. Um,
I'm being
and just
ornery and playing devil's advocate. I know. I want
no,
one,
you're
believe
fine. I don't mind.
So
Um,
let me ask you this. What's your personal testimony? Do you feel different using it?
I mean, I've had it for a couple years now. I think it's hard to say like overall, yes. So, but I do a lot of different things. So if I come home from work, okay, and I've had a long day and I'm tired because I'm a florist, I'm on my feet all day. I will usually take like an Epsom salt bath or something.
Hmm.
Um, I'll put some like benzoate clay in the bath. That's really good for this is a tangent, but when you bathe in tap water, you want to filter that. You can get a filter off Amazon. I'll filter my bath water and then I'll put benzoate clay in there because I know,
No, I'm
it'll
just laughing because I'm thinking about your
attract.
sister that you live with. And Kelsey is so not this way.
She
And
is
so this
like,
drives her crazy. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this must
she
make
had,
her.
she literally had like a Pop-Tart for breakfast this morning, and I had like a raw milk matcha latte and like sausage and sourdough bread that I had made in the, like, it's just so different. It's so different.
And it's so hilarious to be around the both of you.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. And I thought it was cute that this today, even just before this, we got together, we both texted each other saying, wait, I've got to work on my sourdough
I was
before I
like, I
can.
can't talk to you until I finish making my bread.
Yeah.
But so okay, no, so Benzoyl clay is really great because it'll you don't want to use a metal spoon with it, but because it'll, when it's in the water, it'll attract all of the toxins and bind to it. And so then your body won't absorb those. So it's really good. Anyway, so I do a whole bunch of things to answer your question. So I overall, yes, I think the red light has really been helpful, but I also do like, I'll take a bath, I'll put a castor oil pack on my liver, which castor oil is really good for you. I know, don't laugh at me, Jan. Castor
No,
oil is so good for you.
she does this to me when she's home. She puts one on me too. So
You asked me, you're like, do you have an extra? And I was like, of course I have an extra pack on.
Oh, I
Uh,
forgot to turn it off.
Jan.
Sorry.
And then I'll sit in my red light. So it's like I have a whole, but then I'm like, oh, I feel so rejuvenated. I feel so great. I feel so like ready for bed. And then I mouth tape at night, which I don't know if people are aware of that or they know what that is. It's not duct tape. I told my coworker about it once and they were like, you put duct tape over your mouth? And I was like, no. You put like, it's medical grade tape over your mouth so you can, Jan, don't even. You invited me here for this podcast.
No,
you wanted to hear all the crunchy things. Okay.
No. She put that on my mouth when I slept in her room.
You should be a nose breather. If you're a mouth breather, it's a red flag. Like, just gonna, like, that's a red flag. You should be breathing through your nose.
Okay, what's a red flag?
Huh?
How is it a red flag for what?
Mouth breathing.
Right.
You don't want to breathe through your mouth.
Okay.
You want to breathe through your nose. You will get more oxygen into your body and it'll be overall better for your blood and your all the things if you breathe through your nose. So at night, sometimes people are mouth breathers, so they tape their mouth shut to make sure that they breathe through their nose. And I'm telling you, when I started doing it, I didn't wake up through the night. I literally felt so much more well rested when I woke up in the morning and I got deeper sleep. And there's a doctor that I follow that talks
about reading my Bible beforehand before I fall asleep.
Huh?
Okay, no, I'm serious though. I tried it one time, but that was when I was on your side of the bed, and so therefore I was not getting a good night's sleep. Okay, and the other thing not to rush
all these things. Look, okay, so there's a really good podcast. It's called Red. What is it called? I listened to it. It's Red Pill Your Health. Red Pill Your Health Cast, and it's a functional doctor / chiropractor, and he hosts it with this girl she's a nurse practitioner. She used to be in traditional medicine and now she's like very crunchy, and they go over so many things and they're so knowledgeable. So that's one really good one to follow. There's a lot of, but it's so mainstream now, the whole mouth taping thing. I know my sister makes fun of me for it all the time.
That's really romantic for when you get married. Okay, well, so anyway, I just think about your husband when you get married, he's
going to be so healthy. He is in for it.
It's such a treat for him. Okay, so the other thing is, I want to talk about the red light, but then I want to get back to earthing, and I want to touch on it because I know we have to wrap up. Well, we can just go on for hours, but the red light, though, the lymphatic, that's what I wanted to talk about because that's what you have in the chiropractor's office. That's what we get on, and I've done that, and it feels, when you have one of those at home, I need to get one of those.
I love my lymphatic machine.
Great, yeah.
So most people, their lymphatic system is stagnant because of all the chemicals and the toxins. And so you really want to kickstart your lymphatic system by like dry brushing, doing a gua sha, things like that, because your lymphatic system helps. Stop laughing at me. I'm enjoying you. You're so unique. Environment now.
So unique. Okay, I'm just enjoying you. Okay.
Anyway, so Your lymphatic system helps get rid of toxins in your body, but most people's lymphatic systems are stagnant because you're bombarded with so many toxins on the day to day. Go
Mhm.
figure. So you can do a lot of different things to help your lymphatic system. Like massages are really good for that because it, like if you notice after a massage, you feel great because you've
Yeah.
just like you feel awesome. So the lymphatic plate that I have, yeah, it's just like it's like a vibration plate, but you stand on it. I got off Amazon. It's like $100, and you can. It just is really good for your lymphatic system. And at the chiropractor, they have one too. Um, yeah, I mean that's about it for that. It's just good
Yours
for
is
you.
great because it does this whole thing where it starts out
You can
and then
do
it goes
pro.
faster and faster and faster, and then it slows down again, and then it goes in cycles. And
Mm-hmm.
so I just stood there
Yeah.
using it in the living room, which is in Kelsey and Michael's living room, which is so amusing. And Kelsey would walk through and she'd look at me on it, and then she would roll her eyes and just walk on to the kitchen. It's
Well,
so
what is it?
funny.
Yesterday, I'll say things where I'm like, Kelsey, like, I really feel like we need a clothing line outside to like hang dry our clothes. Like, wouldn't that be so nice? And she just is like, she's like, stop. She'll just look at me like, stop talking. Like, I'll say things and she's like, just stop talking. Just don't even talk. Um, she's gotten to the point where she like records some of the things that I say. Like, and she's just like, just stop talking. But then grounding's another really good one. I love
Oh yeah, I wanted to get to
like,
that.
and the thing is you just know, like, when you're inside all day and then you go outside and you just stand in the sun for a little bit and you just get sunshine or you go on a walk, like you feel so much better. Like your
Mhm.
body feels better, you feel better, your mind feels clear. Like that's why I think COVID was so detrimental for so many people is because they were stuck inside. They didn't go outside. Like, of course you're going to go crazy inside. Like, of course. Like, it's
Well,
like
that
you're in
was
the
the intention.
yeah.
That's the whole thing.
Personally,
That was exactly the intention. The
I
in the
didn't. Personally,
pandemic. Yeah.
I was in Arizona
Oh,
during COVID and I went hiking every day, and my mental health was actually great during that time. But
thanks. Actually, that was when we decided, there was a time where I thought, would it be simpler to live in the city and have access to all the things? And
yeah.
the that hit, and I was thinking, nope, nobody can tell me that I can't take a walk on my property or go down to the pond or whatever. So, I wanted to. In fact, this is why I had my phone. I remember I want to say something because this really speaks to everything that we're talking about today. Literally everything, because lest anyone say, okay, well, um, if I'm not hearing from my medical health care provider, then I'm not believing any of this. And this is all sounding new age or whatever. But even Got Questions writes, what is grounding, earthing, and is it biblical? And they basically refute that it is not. It says it's the practice of physically connecting oneself as closely as possible to the earth by going barefoot, lying on the ground, or lying on a special pad, either connected to the earth by grounding wires or a rod, or plugged into a wall outlet linked to a modern earth ground system. So at least you don't have those things. So you can point that out to Kelsey, because that sounds to me like that's a little too much. But
Mm-hmm.
um, some people believe that the physical earth has energy that can heal both physical and emotional illnesses. This theory claims the earth is negatively charged, so when a human body makes direct contact with the earth's electrons neutralize the free radicals in the person's body. So the concept behind grounding, is it true, and is this biblically acceptable? And they say there's nothing inherently wrong with going barefoot or lying on the ground. Really, I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you. That is so reassuring. Wow.
I
And then it's on, some people enjoy being close to nature and mindfulness and all of that. And absolutely that is the case. Taking a walk in nature is so beneficial. But then it talks about incorporating Eastern religious practices in terms such as yoga and chakra, and that it basically crosses the line, and it's a slippery slope into this new age demonic thing. And I'm thinking to myself, where does walking outside and taking your shoes off and standing on the ground or on the grass,
mm-hmm.
where is there a mention of chakra at all? And the way I've always looked at it, like, I mean, Christians for so long have been taught, oh no, there's no such thing as the prophetic. Oh no, we don't believe in talking in tongues. Oh no, you shouldn't be doing fill in the blank. And I think what we're realizing now is that our God loves each people group. He hasn't given any one ethnic people group all of the answers, nor has he kept from them certain practices that may or may not be good. And I'm not saying those things associated with occult practices or things that are not biblical.
Yeah.
Absolutely, we would not advocate for that.
No.
But I often wonder, like you hear about acupuncture, for example, this is what I'm thinking of that comes to mind, or even the practices of yoga, taking out the meditation and the namaste and all the weird stuff associated with it. Stretching's really good for your body. That's irrefutable. Um, I
Yeah.
don't know much about acupuncture, but I'm not going to stand against it because who knows? Maybe the Lord
I
gave
mean,
that.
I've never done acupuncture, but I've wanted to. I mean, all it does is it just, I think it's knowing it just knows the body, and then you just put needles in certain places to help relieve pressure. Like I don't understand. I think that it's. I had a teacher once in theology school that said something along the lines of like, Elton John could get on stage and sing "Jesus Loves You," and it could be demonic.
Right,
Like it's all about the spirit behind something. Like I
right,
think as Christians to like throw the baby out with the bathwater and be like, don't enjoy the earth because that's new age. Like everyone's
right.
so quick to not want to do anything that's new age. And I don't want to do anything that's new age either, but like you are like just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Like growth and spiritual maturity and use
Right.
discernment. I know it
That's
sounds really
exactly
intense,
it.
but like
Yeah.
just know Jesus, know the Holy Spirit, and use discernment. It's literally as easy as that. And I think that like you're just gonna only do yourself harm if you are not willing to like, participate in enjoying the earth or doing certain things. I think you know when you walk in a room if the yoga being practiced is not great. You can sense it and you can feel it and you can be like, okay, I'm not
Hmm.
gonna do this. Like, yeah, don't do new age things. Like, there's so much new age stuff out there, but I think it's as Christians, people make it black and white, and it's
Well,
just not that black and white.
yeah.
And I know that sounds probably pretty harsh, but I think that that's. I mean, you just
No,
know.
I don't think, what I think sounds harsh is what I found here where it said something about, oh, it says, their websites on grounding abound, but none appear to be supported by reputable scientists, pharmacists, or medical practitioners. And this fact alone should make us cautious. So it says if grounding were as miraculous as it claims to be, wouldn't dozens of others be eager to jump on board? So I've got a couple of problems with this article. The first and foremost is, are we all still always giving pharmacists like, is it just because a pharmacist says what makes a decision or a scientist says it's one way? No, it's what you talked about. It's staying in connection with God, being discerning, hearing what he is releasing to you. And the other part of it, I think it's just so new that we're just now beginning to talk about it. So who knows what the ramifications will be in the future, what we will find is true. But I just think it's one of those things that, like, for years ago, when I started losing people in my own life, I was reading all kinds of material I could get a hold of on life after death. And one of the people that I read was Raymond Moody. He had a book out called Life After Death, or Life
Oh yeah,
After
the
Life, I
name
believe.
sounds familiar.
And what was fascinating about that is I read everything I could get my hands on over the years. And I felt like I just investigated, not just the spiritual, supernatural, but just every single religion. I just wanted to be incredibly well informed, which logicality always brings you back around to Christ. I mean, there's just no other way to see the world if you choose to be informed, is to come to this logical conclusion. But I just felt like for the longest time I was hearing this narrative, oh, when someone dies and sees a light and they have these experiences, it's really a chemical process within the body and it's not something the body is experiencing. Well, now come full circle, the movie that was out this last year called Life After Death, we have real scientists and people, including Moody, most of these people I've read before, who now say, scientists will now say, no, we actually have proof that there is life after death. And it gets back to, I think years ago, Swedish researchers did some studying where they weighed the bed before someone departed and then after, and then there was a difference, as if as if the soul did escape through the body and it was weighable. I don't know. I haven't looked at that study in decades. My point is, there was all of this information and everybody was so right about it until they weren't. And so that is probably not a good scientific example, but I would say let's just be really cautious before we label anything, because I mean, there's some things that we know are absolutely not of him. But based upon discernment, I think that we can know a few things. First of all, we know, and scripture tells us this, that the enemy has no creativity whatsoever. He cannot create. Only God creates. And so God has given us all of this great things that we don't even know about. You know, the Bible tells us his people are destroyed for lack of information. And this is one of those examples. I would just suggest getting out and trying grounding yourself. Take your shoes off, stand in the dust or the dirt. I'm thinking dirt for me right now because it's not springtime yet and things aren't real green. And so my chickens have really gone to town in the like
really
in the grass. But you know, stand there for a minute.
Be in the 80s this week.
What?
It's supposed to be in the 80s this week, so we're in spring here. I'm really sorry.
As Kelsey would say, stop talking. So yeah, just trying all of these things, praying to the Lord, being aware. I'm sorry to say, don't trust all of the sources that you may have trusted at one point. Trust the Lord. He's the only one that you can trust, and he will lead you to truth. Yeah. That's what I have to say on the matter, and so much more. But I'll just be quiet.
Fun.
What else do you have to say, Em?
Yeah, I think that you just have to decide it for yourself, you know, like to each their own. People, you can listen to podcasts all day long, but until you want to kind of make changes in your life and whatnot and actively carry that out, because it's one thing to want it, and then it's another thing to actively make changes and make in your life and act on them. Then we live in a day and age where there's like and I'm not an expert, but there's so much information out there that you can listen to and you can gather from online that's free. Like you don't have to go spend thousands of dollars on a course. Like there's so much out there that people have offered that are knowledgeable and experts in order to help you live healthy, have a healthy lifestyle, and really just take care of yourself. So
No, I think that's absolutely well put. And you don't have to believe everyone. That's not what we're saying. I mean, you're going to always have information that's not correct. I always thought growing up, just because it was in print, if somebody had published something, certainly that had to be true. And then of course I became an adult. Saying, you know, just have an adult like mindset and be willing to get out of your comfort zone, because maybe you've always done something a certain way and you really, let's say you really like to buy ice cream, and by the way, it's not ice cream, right? I mean, it's like it's hard to find an ice cream without corn syrup unless you make it yourself. Well, maybe you learn to make it yourself.
Some brands now, but yes.
Yeah. But it's like everything else, especially, you know, when you look back over the past few years and just all of the things that we learned associated with every conspiracy theory, it seemed, under the sun. And you know, the media wasn't going to tell us the truth. Major media outlets weren't. Our government wasn't. The list goes on. But it took, for those really wanting to know the truth, that weren't content with sitting idly by and being spoon-fed information any more than we're willing to be spoon-fed food. And we want to be able to make our own choices. We can still do that. There is information, is what Emily's saying, available to you. Don't take our word for it, but mostly just go to the Lord and ask him for discernment, because he'll tell you.
Yeah.
He'll show you the way.
Go do the research.
Yeah. Pray and fast about it. There you go. And pray and fast. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah.
I appreciate you as always. We'll have to get Kelsey to come in someday. I don't know. That'd just be, that'd be wild.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That won't happen.
Yeah. We'll see.
Hopefully this was helpful.
I hope it was helpful for some of you. You're probably thinking, wow, they really are crunchy. Wow, I don't know that I want to make those changes. Yeah, doesn't mean you can't stop at your favorite place on the way home tonight, but just I guess start thinking you will feel better for it. I mean, like you, Emily, I just think it's even more significant at my age. It's I do feel a difference. What I put into my body makes a huge difference in how I feel. And gosh, do I love a big, huge burger and fries? Absolutely. But I know that if I do that, I'm gonna feel
Yeah.
different the next day. So,
Even just like, I mean, there's so many other things I could have said that I think probably would have been crazy to people,
oh, I'm sure of it.
we'll
Yeah.
save that for another time.
Oh, I
Like we
guess we
just
will
skim the surface.
then.
This is just entry level, and then there's just more once you get down in the layers
Oh,
of it.
I'm sure there is.
You can
Yeah.
do ways to, yeah. Anyway,
All
that's all.
right. I love you.
Love you. Bye.
The rest of you, thanks for listening. And I hope that you have a very good day. Missy taught me never say good
I
morning anymore.
know you told me
Yeah,
that.
that's
Yeah.
why I'm saying it. Yeah. So a
Okay.
good day to you. And when you pass someone at the park, you should say good day. Sounds
Okay.
very, yeah. Okay.
Sounds
Anyway,
great.
bye.
Thanks.
Thanks
Bye.
for joining us.